Good afternoon, Drew Holley, Managing Partner, BIS Benefits. We are an employee benefit and a commercial insurance advisor here in Metro Atlanta, and I am joined by Mike Woodard.
Hey Drew, Mike Woodard, BIS Benefits, Vice President of Sales and Account Management, and really my role is everything benefits, from account management to coaching to production to everything. And so probably people are like, well, why has he got a benefits guy on here? And I really thought in a process of not only talking to our benefit clients and saying, hey, we also have this division, right? But having the knowledge of knowing what these things are and knowing the risk services side became something that was a conviction, because I don't want to tell them we have something without me having some knowledge on it. And so why is a benefit guy on here is because I really want to know and better understand, so I can better articulate to our benefits clients of why you want this with both parties is, talk to me like I'm a fifth grader, right? Explain the processes, maybe some differences, and because I want to be able to speak it and be educated on it.
On the business insurance side, we have a division, a lot of types of insurance. There's workers' comp, there's liability, there's cyber, there's bonds. Today's topic is about commercial auto insurance. And I find that a lot of people can relate to that topic a little bit more than the liability, the commercial property, because most people here in Metro Atlanta are driving a car, not everyone.
Right.
But why are the rates going up? What's happening in the marketplace? Because I would say not every business out there, if you're a restaurant, you may have a lot of part-time, few full-time staff members, but you don't necessarily have trucks and cars. Mm-hmm. So commercial auto does not apply to every business and every industry in Metro Atlanta. But for those that have auto policies, 5, 10, 20, we talk to a lot of construction companies that might have 50 trucks, right?
Yep.
So why is it going up? What's happening? Can you do anything to not make it go up, right? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So why it's going up, I think, is part of the broader economy of just inflation. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that's starting to cool down. But like anything, the insurance industry is not immune to inflation, whether it be supply and demand, whether it be because of overprinting, that it's run its course and running its course in all forms of insurance, and commercial auto is no different. Metro Atlanta, I think I read the other day, we're bigger than Boston now, which is wild.
Insane.
Someone that moved here 20 years ago.
Nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go. And so in Metro Atlanta, again, so we're talking in the context of Metro Atlanta, why rates are going up. So if you're in another state, there might be other reasons, but there's more people. With more people becomes a bigger risk that you could get into an accident. So I think that's a reason it could go up. I won't beat up on the lawyers on today's call, but let's just say there might be some room for state legislation that would maybe prevent certain accidents where suing comes into play. Again, that can be a hot topic depending on who you are. But again, the more claims any carrier pays, health insurance, life insurance, auto, commercial auto is no different, whether it be for a car wreck or negligence for an accident, then rates have nowhere else to go but up to make up for all those claims. Right. So that could be a reason. You can't really do anything as maybe a business owner or leader for that, but certain things you can do is you just think about insurance in general. Life insurance companies fair or not fair, don't really want to give great rates to people who don't have great health. That's a little morbid because they might be more likely to pass away early. Well, auto is the same thing. What's the risk? So it's the opposite of health. And health, the younger you are, typically the healthier you are, you might have a better rate. Auto, if you got a 16-year-old, you're a little bit more careless.
It's like driving bearing age.
That's right. It's kind of the opposite. Yeah. So you don't necessarily want to discriminate as a business owner who you hire, but you can have HR policies on driving records. So a recommendation could be, hey, in order to work here and drive our commercial car, we require somewhat of a clean driving record. So an extreme example would be, hey, if you get more than one super speeding ticket, you can't drive the truck. And if their job requires to drive the truck, they may not be able to work there. Because if you have 10 drivers that are authorized to be on your commercial policy, if one person has multiple DUIs and 3 speeding tickets,
not going to write it?
They're either not going to write it or you're not going to like the rates.
Yeah.
And so one thing that you can do from strategic is just have that policy and enforce it and be open in the discussion of new hires that, look, we have to have a good driving record. So that's one thing.
Tell me, really thinking out loud, right? I got personal home and auto with the family, and I have a local agent for my personal home and auto. Tell me why I wouldn't just go to him, or tell me why I wouldn't just go to a State Farm where they say they offer those type policies too for small businesses. Is it access to policies, being that we are considered we can shop out more than one, right? We're licensed with more than just a one.
Yeah, that's
one
another
car.
question. Okay, how can you lower rates, commercial auto?
Right,
What could you do? So HR policy was one. I'm going to talk about some other areas too. Generally speaking, shopping it out. So in the insurance world, some people look at us as agents, some people look at us as brokers. My favorite is the insurance man. Never thought I'd be that growing up in high school, but it is what it is. So let's talk about State Farm. State Farm's brand known, do most probably, I'm assumption, people's auto, home, probably life. They do business insurance. The difference between a State Farm, say, agent is they can only shop out the commercial auto for just State Farm. We as a broker have access to many carriers, Hanover, Selective, Hartford, Travelers, right? We've got access and many more, and any good commercial broker would have it. So being able to have access to more carriers just gives you a higher percentage at bats that if one carrier is not a good fit, I might be able to look at other. So that's a great example so of lowering it. Another is technology, and depending on who you are as a person from a privacy standpoint, I'm sympathetic to that, but to make a cultural reference to Big Brother, you could look to put cameras on your trucks. Why? Why? Because what if there's an accident on 285 with your truck and another truck, and your staff member saying, hey, it wasn't my fault, they ran a stop sign. Sometimes it's a he said, she said. If you're willing to say, look, I'll put a dashboard camera on the front end of my truck, what you're doing is you're protecting the carrier in that sense so that there's no pointing fingers.
Right.
So that might be a way to prevent an increase, or frankly, if you're willing to do that, to get a better carrier, a better policy. So that's a strategic thing that your broker advisor should talk to you about. Definitely sympathetic to, hey, I don't want to do that. I don't want them seeing our mess. Every business leader is different. Another one is really, there's technology. It's almost you leveraging GPS that would inform you as the employer if you had an employee that ran a stop sign, was going over the speeding ticket. Now that's taking the Big Brother concept even further. Yeah. Why is that important? Well, not necessarily to fire a first offense, but it's to say, hey, we notice you're going 15 miles an hour over the speeding limit.
Yeah. Slow down
a little bit, right? Yeah. Why? Because one person, unfortunately, can affect the rates for everybody. So those are just some very simple things that you can do in your control. A good commercial insurance agent or broker is having those discussions with you. Right. Are they doing it every day? No one wants to discuss insurance every day, but that's typically annually, and you shouldn't do it the day before your policy renews. It should be discussed in probably a month or so in advance.
Yeah. Well, I'll think about it, but I still love that State Farm commercial. Jake's my guy.
Oh, Jake's your guy. That's right. Yeah, no offense to Jake, and we don't really compete too much at this point with State Farm.
So yeah, see, I come in thinking, hey, what's the difference, right? And it's a completely different. It's a different target audience. But just thinking even of the Brown and Browns of the world, and the more people that we compete with from an agency standpoint that are able to offer these sides of the commercial auto, and even other policies. So now if I'm thinking, all right, now I know that this is who BIS competes with as a employee, as a business owner. I understand the difference, right? But now I know, well, okay, if I don't go there, I'll go to Gallagher, or I'll go to Marsh or Truist, or whatever all these different agencies are that do both. Well, I probably get an increase from you as just as much as the increase from them.
Yeah,
right? So does it come down, how do we build in that personal touch that's able to give us that serving heart, that trust, and that good relationships with those benefits? Do you use some examples that you started as benefits? So do you use those examples and bring it into that whenever, hey, I know rates are rates, but you're going to have my cell phone number, you're going to be X, just bringing in that servant mentality. Yeah.
And so we talked about this in other discussions, but this is a good thing to end on this topic. At the end of the day, whether it's benefits or commercial, our competition is your broker. Right. It's not Hartford or Travelers. And again, if you're coming from, I have personal insurance and that agent, you may think I have to move it from Allstate to State Farm and I have to move the broker. our case is, who's your broker? And there's been so much acquisition in our industry, meaning big, huge $100 million insurance agencies are buying up $1 million agencies, $10 million agencies. And just naturally, when that happens, if you're a small business with 10 trucks and you're paying $100,000 for your auto or liability, it's tough for an organization, an insurance agency, or brokerage to keep the top talent on a small business with those policies. So our differentiator, and we're not the only broker in town, there's other independently owned agencies.
And even those larger billion-dollar firms do a good job, but that's not maybe their target market, right? That's not part of their business plan.
I think it would be a fool's errand to assume, that they're doing that with every client. I would just say that there are service experiences with any company. I always think cable internet. And to avoid certain names, there's a certain cable provider I'm thinking in my head that not exactly known for great customer service experience. And so we don't say it out loud, but do you want that experience where you email someone, you ask them to do something, they don't do it? Or do you want the Chick-fil-A experience?
Right, especially as a Braves fan, right?
Yeah, that's right. Commercial auto, the service experience doesn't necessarily lower your rates, but it can help better the experience if you have a claim. Auto is a little bit different than workers' comp, liability, property. Those experiences, hopefully you're having less claims, but if you've got 10 trucks and 10 drivers, you're probably going to have, unfortunately in Metro Atlanta, fender benders at a more frequent base. And so an agent can help at least make the claim experience better. At that point, you can maybe bring in some suggestions. Hey, I noticed you still don't have trucks and with cameras on them, or the GPS monitoring, or you haven't updated your handbook. Those are the things we can control. Looking at different carriers. Again, that's a general for today's topic, and we'll leave it at that. Those are the ways that you can lower rates. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, whatever prices we're paying for anything, whether it's insurance, probably home, most things, they're probably going up. And my biggest advice is, if you haven't talked to your agent or broker in a couple of years about these policies, workers' comp, liability, commercial autos, the one that's probably going up the most right now from a general standpoint, you need to talk to an agent or broker that's got their head in it, and that they have a monetary incentive to want to help you. And that's where you can make the case that an agency, not an agency started yesterday, one person out of the garage, no offense to that person listening, we're rooting for you. But having an agency with, say, 27 staff members is going to be more aligned to want to help a company with 30 employees as an agency with 10,000 employees.
Yep, totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's good discussion. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, man.